Okay. Wait till we pass it to sign it. Okay. Are we ready, Ashley? My computer says, oh, one says 6, the other says 5:59.
And computer's always like ahead of it for some reason. My watch says 42.
This one's 6 and this one is 5:59.
It's not bad.
It's
Not bad.
Good evening, everyone. It's 6 p.m. I'll call this meeting of the Washington County Board of Supervisors to order. We are all here tonight in our places with bright shining faces. This agenda was posted in the office of the county clerk on the first day of July 2026. Notice was sent to the West Bend Daily News, Express News, WIBD, WMBZ Radio, WTKM Radio, My Community Now, the Hartford Times Press, the Kewaskum Statesman, and the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. We'll rise for a moment of silent prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The minutes of June 10th were in the packet. Does anyone have any questions, corrections, etc.? There being none, we'll record them as presented in the package. A couple extra things on my communications. There will be a special public safety meeting for the fire and EMS plan. First look at it, July 29th at 4 p.m. Anyone has interest in it, please come to that meeting or watch it on YouTube. Also, I will be on vacation next week, so if you need me, call Mike. Our first resolution is 2026 Resolution 12, commendation of Mary Jo Banfield. Motion and a second, please. Supervisor Schwab, Supervisor Vespalik. The clerk will read the commendation. Mary Jo couldn't be with us tonight, but we'll honor her anyway.
Whereas Mary Jo Banfield has contributed 25 years of loyal service to the citizens of Washington County, and whereas Mary Jo Banfield has chosen to retire from her present position of Sheriff Administrative Officer 1 with the Sheriff's Office, now therefore be it resolved that the Washington County Board of Supervisors pause in its deliberations to pay tribute and to commend Mary Jo Banfield for her 25 years of meritorious service. Be it further resolved that on behalf of all citizens of Washington County, this body does herewith extend to her heartfelt thanks for her many accomplishments and successes. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Mary Jo Banfield as a token of appreciation on the part of this board.
Our next item is Resolution 13, commendation of Ralph Roscoe. Motion by Supervisor Hartwig, second by Supervisor Gallots.
Whereas Ralph Roscoff has contributed 26 years of loyal service to the citizens of Washington County, and whereas Ralph Roscoff has chosen to retire from his present position of laborer operator patrol person with the Highway Department, now therefore be it resolved that the Washington County Board of Supervisors pause in its deliberations to pay tribute and to commend Ralph Roscoff for his 26 years of meritorious service. Be it further resolved that on behalf of all citizens of Washington County, this body does herewith extend to him heartfelt thanks for his many accomplishments and successes. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Ralph Roscoff as a token of appreciation on the part of this board.
On all your years of service, 26 years. You know, between you and Mary Jo, we're losing a lot of experience.
Yeah,
Any words?
no, just, glad to be employed and glad to retire.
Our next item is Resolution 14, the advisory resolution requesting state legislature to establish policies giving local elected bodies greater control in the regulation of large wind and solar projects in the interest of preserving farmland. Marietta, you have a comment?
Thank you, Chairman. The advisory resolution before you today urges the Wisconsin State Legislature to give local elected bodies greater authority over large wind and solar energy projects. Wisconsin agricultural economy, valued at $116 billion, relies heavily on preserving farmland, and residents often feel cut out of major land use decisions when large renewable projects are proposed. Granting more local control would allow communities to address concerns about land impact, natural resources, foreign ownership of farmland, and the overall transparency of the development process. Current Wisconsin law divides siting authority between state and local municipal governments, with the Public Service Commission overseeing wind and solar projects of 100 megawatts or more. Local governments have very limited ability to regulate projects below that threshold and face strict constraints under state law. As a result, many projects move forward. The resolution seeks to share Washington County's support for greater local oversight and encourages legislative action without endorsing any specific bill. While Assembly Bill 493 and its amendment requiring municipal approval of projects 15 megawatts or larger were discussed as examples, the resolution itself does not mention any specific legislation. Instead, it highlights the growing need for communities to have a voice in renewable energy as energy demand rises and more projects are planned. By formally expressing this position, the county hopes to prompt state-level reforms that ensure meaningful local involvement in future land use decisions. Thank you.
I should add that Marietta was the supervisor that brought this forward, so thank you for that. Any comments or discussion? Supervisor Newman.
Thank you, Chair. I personally want to thank Supervisor Bailey for bringing this forward. I think this is it's a very big concern amongst a lot of communities around the state. So I'm glad we're trying to get ahead of it before it kind of takes over our community and our county. So thank you again.
Supervisor Mary.
Thank you, Chair. Again, it's to quote Supervisor Newman, congratulations and thank you, Marietta, for doing this and bringing it forward. The whole control over solar and wind energy projects has been extremely controversial and probably will continue to be so as we move forward. I think Supervisor Hartwick can talk about some of the situations they've had in the town of Jackson where this has come up. One of the dilemmas that the local communities face on this is they just don't have the control to say, hey, we don't want this to happen, or we want to have some voice in this, and that has not been happening. It does have to go through the State Public Service Commission. I erred in my comments to Supervisor Bailey when she presented this to Land Use and Planning Commission. The feds don't have that much control. Some aspects they do on much larger units, but on the size of the properties she's talking about and the size of projects, this could indeed and should indeed have more local governance and control over the projects. One of the questions that we're going to come up on this, and it's going to be a continual problem, is the farmer's got his land. He wants to do something with it. And he's got a couple options. He can sell it to wind or solar development, or he can put houses on it. Either way, he wants to get out of farming. He wants to sell the land and have something to give to his kids. That's where the real dilemma can come in on this. And I know Supervisor Hartwig is running this, and I think Supervisor Newman has probably encountered some of this as well with the projects over there. But I commend Supervisor Bailey for bringing this up. It is something that needs to be moved forward at the local level. And as we found at the local level, this board and some of the committees here can have influence on legislation and governance and rules that come down through state agencies. And I think this is a good start to move forward on that. Thank you.
And I'll add that many farmers don't have a retirement plan. The value of their land is their retirement plan. So not giving them options what to do is not right. Supervisor Bossert.
All right, I also want to thank Supervisor Bailey for bringing this up. I encourage everybody to vote for this. I look at what's happening with solar, and we are, as a state, going much too heavily on solar. We're chewing up a lot of prime farmland for solar, land that would much better be served feeding our country. So I think having local control is key here. Right now, we don't have a lot of say in what happens with these solar plants, and we got to change that. So thank you.
Supervisor Krebs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to give thanks to Mike for his research and due diligence. I was slightly critical of this at the committee level, mostly due to I didn't understand what the status of the state statutes and how that really does impact our local municipalities. So I appreciate that, and it definitely was informative to help bring me to support this. So thank you.
Supervisor Watson Conrad.
Thank you, Chair. And yes, I was going to thank Mike also. I greatly appreciate your work on this. So we truly make an informed vote, an informed decision here. But I also would like to state, we need to look at really the root cause of why we're having this conversation and this resolution was created is, farmers need, can we help get them some more incentives to keep their land farmland, instead of having, thinking they have to sell or, we have our farmland preservation program that, was upped a little bit, but it's really, out of the goodness of the farm landowners' hearts that they participate in that. Really the state contribution is minimal, but if we can maybe look at trying to create some greater incentives to keep our farmland.
Thank you. Definitely a problem, looking for a solution. Supervisor Schwab.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too appreciate the efforts of Marietta, Supervisor Bailey and Mike in bringing this forward and would move approval of resolution 14.
Thank you. Supervisor Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to Mike and Marietta, thank you for bringing this forward to land use and planning. This is my committee. I am in full support of this, and this will be one happy bill for me to sign. I look forward to hopefully the state taking some action on this and giving us an opportunity to have more of a voice. As a truck driver, I kind of drive around the state and I get to see these solar farms. And it's almost like the Indian in the pollution commercials that we used to see back in the 60s. It really does almost make you want to cry to see productive farmland turned into miles and miles of solar panels and no longer productive farmland. We're not making new farmland. What we are making is solar fields. And that's something to really think about. So I strongly encourage you to support this document, and I'll look forward to its passage. Thank you.
Supervisor Bailey.
Yes, thank you. I would also like to thank Mike, who I couldn't have done this without him. Thank you, Mike. Second the motion.
Is that legal? Mike made the motion and she seconded the motion. Okay. Supervisor Newman. Okay. So, formally, do we have a motion? Mike, and second by Supervisor Bailey? Okay? Okay. Ready to vote electronically? It passes unanimously. Our next item is Resolution 15 for a general funds transfer for consulting services for next generation housing components of the Washington County redevelopment corridor. Who wants to go first? Ms. Sealski?
Good evening. So this resolution allocates $250,000 from the general fund to support consulting services for the Washington County redevelopment corridor project. The phase one of the redevelopment corridor project is really underway. We're finishing up the concept plans. And those will go to the County Executive Committee in August. And then we hope to reconvene the task force later this summer and start on concept planning for phase two. So short and sweet. Anyone have any questions? I'll be happy to answer them.
Any questions or discussion? Supervisor Conrad.
Thank you, Chair. Question, if we don't approve this money, what would the status of the project be? Just end at phase one and pause?
I think we would be pausing. I think there's a couple scenarios. Pausing at the general fund transfer could do it could shift the ability to move forward with a couple of the properties. Some of the funding that was going to be completed with these funds include on the south site, an $8,000 match for a phase two environmental site assessment for that site. Also some soil borings for the central site. Let me just read here, we have some geophysical survey work that was going to be done on the Rolfe site. And then we have consulting services for Vanderwall and Associates and SCH to assist the task force on the phase 2 design.
Thank you. I do have concerns, like we just spoke of trying to preserve our farmland and how we're putting minimal dollars towards that and to try and find a balance here, with the housing and preserving farmland. And, personally, I would like to, pause, let, our phase 1 sustain as it is. And I would personally like to see more money go towards incentives for farmland preservation.
Supervisor Troutner.
Thank you. I also have some pretty big concerns about this. And we had talked a little bit. I have concerns about the next gen housing program in general. In Kewaskum, we have a development, the Regal Place, next gen housing development, and that was supposed to have started selling homes last fall. Still, I don't think there's been any homes sold. So that concerns me that we would be putting money into a program, not sure of how it's going to go. And right now, there's some different things that are being presented across the whole state. Locally, in Fond du Lac County, I think that Mike had sent this email out to all of us about Fond du Lac County has a new incentive program that a lot of other counties might be starting to do something like this, that maybe we should kind of think about what is the best program if we're trying to attract people here. Their program includes a $5,500 cash relocation stipend. And then it also includes things like appliance upgrades, gym memberships, tickets to local sports events, and more. There's no property ownership requirement. So it's kind of like no strings attached, which might attract more people. Statewide, Act 239 was passed, and that provides a workforce home revolving loan program to provide gap financing to supplement a conventional mortgage for the purchase of a single-family residence in Wisconsin that is new construction. The timeline on that is going to be developing, so I don't know if we want to wait and see how that compares, if that is able to help us out, if we're interested in doing that. And then federally, Congressman Scott Fitzgerald introduced some legislation aimed at fixing the housing supply crisis. And one of those is a part of that is a competitive grant program to support regional planning and implementation of affordable housing activities. And so this is something that maybe we want to wait and see how that plays out and how it could help the county. So we could use our money the most financially responsibly that we could. Thank you.
So I could respond to a few of those things if you like.
You may.
Okay. So yeah, I'm aware that Regal Place, the first couple of units that have been developed there have not sold, but the Oaks, that is our fourth development. Our first development is the Oaks of Jackson, and we cannot build those homes fast enough. They are selling and under contract before they even start digging. The same goes for both the developments in Hartford. So we are actually working with Regal Place and American companies to talk to them about the potential of highlighting that development along with our rest of our developments that we have for next generation housing through social media. And also potentially connecting them up with the Wisconsin Realtors Association. I believe American Companies has traditionally been more commercial real estate driven. So I hope that we will see some sales on Regal Place very soon. I also worked with American Companies on developing a one-page fact sheet about next generation housing and how there are no income limits, no age restriction limits, no HUD requirements. And what was interesting in the conversation, I talked with one of our builders, A&N, one of the owners, and he was explaining that the next generation housing homes are so beautiful and high quality. And when a real estate agent with a potential home buyer comes to look at that, or they're viewing it online, the first thing they're thinking is something's got to be wrong with this, because my experience tells me that this home should not be priced at 340,000. It should be priced at 380,000, 390,000. And so they back away. But as soon as that owner, that builder, sits down and talks to the real estate agent and with the potential home buyer and explains to them what next generation housing is, and in fact, that the home buyer will immediately gain anywhere between $20,000 and $40,000 of immediate equity in that home. Once they understand that these are quality homes being built and what we're trying to achieve, they immediately have sales. So I think that it may be a communication issue that we are already trying to work with them and address. So that was one thing on the Oaks of Jackson and A&N. The next thing I want to point out is that with Next Generation Housing, we have actually surveyed all of the homeowners. 48% of the home buyers for Next Generation Housing, they come from outside of Washington County. This is by far one of the best workforce attraction programs that this county has ever established. And when you talk about Fond du Lac and bringing in homeowners, not even homeowners, bringing in anyone for that small amount of money, I anticipate that a lot of those will probably be transient, and I will be really interested in finding the numbers of those people who leave after the 1-year requirement. What we are doing for Next Generation Housing is not just building homes, but we are building a workforce, and we are building community where these home buyers are engaged in their community. They want to participate in the community, raise their families in our community as homeowners. So if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I'm gonna throw something in too. The property across the street, first of all, it's a brownfield. We don't lose any farmland. If we don't build houses there, they'll build houses on the edge of town and take away farmland, which should be always a consideration. The Fond du Lac thing was a grant from the state, which we looked at and couldn't get. But your comments on maybe taking a pause are good comments. I actually had a conversation yesterday with the county executive because we know these federal and state bills are swimming around. And in fact, Mike has been charged today with doing research on just how much they might benefit us. And the county executive said yesterday, maybe there's a benefit for us, and maybe we will take a pause and we'll be able to not use our own money as much as we are now. So that's all in the works. So we appreciate those comments. Mr. Gallitz.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Selinsky, could you explain a little bit more about the partnership or collaboration between Washington County and Regalware regarding this redevelopment corridor? What does that mean, collaboration?
The partnership that we have with Regalware So if you look at the map that was provided in the packet, that shows the full corridor. It's this map here. The full corridor, redevelopment corridor, all right? And this is all county-owned lands. I know that one of the priorities of Washington County Board is to put properties back on the tax rolls. And so this is part of that process. Regalware was interested in partnering with Washington County, mainly due to the workforce attraction ability of next generation housing. They are doing an expansion to their corporation. They are looking to expand their workforce, and they believe in next generation housing, in bringing that workforce to the community. And so they approached Washington County and the possibility of next generation housing on where the existing soccer fields are that are just to the east of their building along Rawls Avenue. So we are working with them. They had a seat at the table and continue to have a seat at the table on the task force that is designing the next generation housing for that site, along with the rest of the sites on the corridor.
So is it fair to say they're the first, or are there other employers in Washington County that are collaborating in the Next Gen Housing Initiative?
I think that they are so far officially the first. We collaborated with them on the Regal Place property. Now we're collaborating on this one. I anticipate that with the successes that we'll see in the future with these, that maybe other companies may come forward and want to participate as well and partner as well.
It's kind of where I'm getting at, because I think I've raised this even going back when I was on Plan Commission a few years ago, is how do we get other stakeholders to participate in this? I believe Chair just said, you know, Washington County is paying for all this at the moment. Well, shouldn't other stakeholders be contributing or be involved? So I guess I would ask, this 250 that we're talking about for some of the bore sampling, et cetera, is Regalware pitching in a portion? I believe 17 acres is theirs. Is that correct? Of the
17 acres is theirs. And as part of the due diligence that the county does, they actually have contributed for some of the work. It was the phase 1 environmental site assessment. They did cover the 20% match that was required.
Okay. So phase 2, they're not contributing?
We have not gotten to phase 2 yet.
But this isn't
The
this
phase 2,
254
the phase 2 is for the south site, the public agency site.
I misunderstood then.
Yeah.
So that's for across the street and everything. So north, that's already been done. And
yeah, we have not done a phase 2 ESA on that site yet.
Okay. So I would hope that they would want to contribute like they did in the other phase assessments, and potentially other employers in the area. I guess if we're celebrating the success of this in Jackson and now in West Bend, I would argue even the Common Council, if that's what they're called in West Bend, might be interested in participating, since they're going to be the prime beneficiary of whatever many houses and property taxes that are collected. So I guess I'm just asking all of us to think about this on our respective committees. Is right now we're bearing a lot, and we look at this very next agenda item, we're going to bear some more, and next budget cycle. So there's a finite amount of money. So how can we get other stakeholders involved in this? Because I do believe it's a good initiative. I believe it can support and sustain that workforce. So you can't attract a quality workforce if you don't have quality housing or even housing available. So how do we get other stakeholders to contribute to this so we're not holding the bag for all of it? Thank you.
Supervisor Kelling.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the redevelopment corridor really isn't taking away farmland, although there are crops there. It is rented land, it is county-owned land. And the importance and the significance of this that we must understand is this is land that is sitting in the county's coffers in a state of stasis, if you will, doing nothing, earning nothing. And we're just holding this land. One of my biggest beefs since I've been on this board for 10 years is the footprint of the county is entirely too large, Mr. Chairman, and needs to be shrunk down considerably, in my opinion. This plan, if it were to go through, would not only shrink that footprint down, put those property taxes back in the rolls, but also addresses some of Supervisor Gallitz's problems with it, I guess, in the amounts that we're putting out. This actually makes money. We're getting tax receipts again on land that was earning us nothing. So I believe that's vitally important. Yes, there are other plans that may be coming down, but I would strongly urge the executive and yourself to not consider putting this on pause, because we all know in government moves extremely slowly. And rarely do you get what you want. And this is a problem. I don't want to wait another 2 years. And then we don't actually get it because it didn't pass Congress or the president vetoed it or whatever else happens. This is the time to develop this land right now. Get it off the county's property and put it back on the tax rolls. It'll be a huge benefit for the county, for the city of West Bend. And one other point I want to make is there is another large development being proposed. And those houses are probably going to be a lot more expensive than ours. And that will be down off of Sand and River Road. And I believe that the best opportunity is right now to get these houses out there. I think they will be snapped up. I think we're at the right place in the right time. And I also want to, Mr. Chairman, commend Deborah Silsky for, first of all, her hard work on this project.
Thank you.
But secondly, just the way you were able to answer all those questions and stuff like that. I think it shows your passion for what you're doing, and I really appreciate it.
Passionate, yes.
So you have a very good knowledge of this whole project. But I strongly urge all of you to please pass this resolution. Let's get this done. You know, remember, we've already invested money in this. Let's not throw away what we've already invested as well. This is a good project. It needs to go forward. Thank you.
And before we go forward, if you'll beg my pardon, Mr. Bossert, I said pause and Mike's having a minor heart attack over here. We're going to vote on this tonight. I just mentioned pause because the executive said, once we can look at all the bills after this, we might pause.
Right.
But the other thing is, we know that there was a power plant on the south side of the road. There were a number of buildings that they just knocked down and left the foundations. So a lot of this is cleanup of what we should have done before. So it's kind of like before anything can happen with that land, the county has to take care of what they didn't complete before. So, Mr. Bossert, please proceed.
Okay, I want to thank Supervisor Troutner for letting us know what's happening with the Kewaskum project. I think Kewaskum, because they're further away from the Milwaukee market, it may be a little bit harder for that site. It may also be too early to tell what's going to happen there. I can tell you here in West Bend, housing is moving fast. Like, housing does not sit on the market at all for very long. And this is part of a bigger project that includes the land we are going to be vacating with the PAC. I don't think we want to screw up that whole project. This does put that property back on the tax rolls. I do have one question. These costs we're putting in are in the sale of these homes. Are we going to recoup that cost, or are we only going to recoup it through the additional tax revenue we get?
Yep. So I am tracking all of the funds that go into each one of the sites. And the final structure of the sale point for each one of these lots has not yet been determined. But I believe it's going to follow a very similar approach that was taken with the Oaks of Jackson, where the Village of Jackson was the developer, and they needed to be made whole on all of the funds that they had set aside and had invested in that development. And they're being made whole.
Okay,
I
so,
anticipate the same thing
yeah.
would happen.
So you're anticipating a high likelihood that when we sell these homes, we're gonna recoup this money that we're putting in.
Yes, and not only would we recoup this with the sale of the land, but also the exponential amount of funds that we would get through the tax rolls.
Only is added icing on the cake per se. Yep.
Yep.
So I think that's even more reason to support this. So thank you. And I would ask everybody to strongly consider supporting this. Thank you.
Supervisor Krebs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Deb, I'll let you go first. I know you got something.
Oh, thank you. No, I just wanted to point out that you had mentioned, the chairperson had mentioned pause. And I think that, I think pause is not necessarily the right term. I think regroup, looking at the potential funding sources that may be out there, federal, state level, when they do come forward, and then we align them with what we can do with next generation housing, and kind of regroup and relook at how the funding structure is moving forward with next generation housing. So,
And I believe you spoke earlier, the amount is up to 250,000. We don't anticipate needing that much money, but she doesn't want to have to come back to the board for 30,000 every other month. So this should take care of the whole package. Supervisor Bossert, you're done. Supervisor Krebs.
Thank you. First, thank you Supervisor Galitz. You brought up some of the thoughts that I had about partnerships or partners in the project. Deb, the question that I haven't heard anyone else ask that I would like you to comment on is, can you give us an update approximately what the fund balance of the next generation housing project is at? And why are we requesting additional money then versus using that money? I think it might be related to how you compare to the Oaks of Jackson development, but you could comment
Yeah.
on that.
I do actually have those numbers right in front of me. And I can just do a quick little rundown. We initially started with 8.2 million next generation funds. We allocated 5.1 million. And I have a list of how those funds have been allocated. And then the funds we have revolved back. So we have gotten 1.4 million funds back when the homes are sold. And with that, we have 4.5 million remaining. And one of the reasons that we were looking at the general fund transfer was really because we anticipated that the cost of the infrastructure was going to be so high that we wanted to utilize these funds for those costs for infrastructure. And it also corresponded with another general fund transfer that had been requested a couple of months ago. So the idea was, well, yeah, let's get $250,000 general fund transfer, because that will be funds that we would be able to utilize quickly, because we are trying to move relatively quickly with this project, and hiring consultants, engineers, survey, appraisal, whatever we need to get done to move this whole project forward.
On these parcels, these future projects, is the county going to be playing the role of developer similar to like Jackson did with the Oaks there? Is that the intent?
Yes, that is my understanding. Yes.
Okay. I guess I understand that there's future monies to be spent on the infrastructure, but in the meantime, there's a lot of money sitting there. that could be used
Mhm.
just as fast as the general fund money. I think we would be able to deploy any of the 4.5 million to pay for the survey work or this investigative work. So I personally would feel better about not general fund transferring money early in the project. I feel like I'd like to get this project farther along and find out if there's going to be more down the road that we do a transfer then if needed, even maybe the 4.5 million, and if more is returned in the meantime back to that fund from the other projects, we might not need any additional funds infused into it. So it's not a motion, but I don't know if there's any appetite by the board for, I don't know if there'd be any action even needed then, if we would just use the already allocated funds towards it. So that's just my thoughts.
Typically, the approval for utilizing next generation housing, that comes from the county executive committee.
Supervisor Conrath.
Thank you. And yeah, thank you, Supervisor Krebs. Yeah, I had concerns too about how much money we've already put into this. And yeah, isn't there, some other way besides a general fund transfer? And I'm curious then too, you've answered that question that, some money we still have towards this, but then we do this, we approve this, then is there going to be even an additional request in the future? Because we keep getting, it seems, requests, for general fund transfers, for this program. And, yes, these sites are great sites to be, developed for housing. But, like I said, trying to find that balance, we've put in millions of dollars towards the housing, but, can we, put a little bit more towards our quality of life and preserving our farmland too? But, and to get Supervisor Gautz's point too, I've, truly hope that and trust you to do your due diligence with trying to, work with Regalware for partnering and maybe other companies to help support this. Or yeah, I thought that was a great idea too. The West Bend, right? The council, city council. Right. Thank you.
Yep.
Supervisor Schwab.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we consider next generation housing and really societal trends in housing, it's important to note that a lot of people really are looking for smaller lots. So as I hear people talk about wanting to preserve farmland and yet drive around the county and see 5 and 10 acre lots with massive homes on them, it makes me wonder, is that the best use of farmland too? This project has proven itself. It's proven itself in the number of people, the percentage of people that have come from outside the county to stay in Washington County. It's proven itself because there are people who are willing to commit, not just for a year or two, not just for a few months, not just for a few goodies, but actually commit to staying in our communities, to helping build Washington County, to make a difference in Washington County. And in my opinion, this is a good investment in Washington County. The lands that we're talking about working on this evening are, as the chair pointed out, property that the county already owns, that should get back on the tax roll, that we need to clean up, that we need to find out what's under there, that we need to pay attention to, and at some point need to just, quite frankly, clean up and make useful again so it can be put on the tax rolls. That's what we're talking about here. Making an investment in Washington County to get land back on the tax rolls, to incentivize people to come into our communities, to help grow our communities, to help build the county. I move approval of this resolution.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Supervisor Kelling? Any further discussion? There being none, we'll vote electronically. This is a 2/3 majority required vote. Supervisor Mary, we don't have your vote recorded. It passes 17-4.
Thank you.
Next up is Resolution 16, Anti-Crime Plan C funding. Mr. Sager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee, county board members. Before I begin, I would ask the Ms. Evans as the parliamentarian regarding the addition of the one piece that's in the committee report for some direction.
Oh, sorry.
I believe everybody should have the amended exhibit, I believe it is, on their desks. It would have been on your desks. Oh, it should be in the electronic packet.
There's a little piece in red.
Mr. Sager should be able to explain what that is and
Yes, I can,
why the
absolutely.
amendment is
Certainly.
for, however.
So I just briefly going over the committee report, and I want to extend my appreciation to the executive for his vision in regard to anti-crime plan C. I want to touch base quickly on Wisconsin Act 179. If we can reach back to last summer, early fall, when we were in our budget discussions and we were deep in the throes of some significant challenges. And at that time, court security was reduced and passed in that budget cycle, and amendments were brought forward to reinstate that court security funding. Those two amendments failed, and the executive had identified that there was legislation that was going to increase court fees. And we wanted to hold off on assuming that would pass, given the state of the legislature and how often they would be meeting going into the new year. So that proved to be prudent because he identified as well that we would revisit court security sometime in 2026. Well, here we are in 2026 at exactly the same time that the executive identified. Wisconsin Act 179 passed in April of this year and became effective 3 months later, the first Monday after 3 months. And now that is law, and our court fees are going to increase, as the committee report identifies, to the tune of $336,000. So with that being said, that helps offset some of the costs that are inside anti-crime plan C, as I hope you're able to identify in the fiscal note. Furthermore, that reinstitutes the funding cut in the last budget cycle and puts court security whole. Moving forward with our drug prosecutor under the scope of District Attorney Bratz, again, speaking to legislation that was in the legislative cycle that is still ongoing, but they're in recess. We had the Justice for All bill that was before the state Senate. The Assembly passed their version of it and sent it over to the state Senate. The state Senate failed to take that measure up. Unfortunately, that measure would have been for the entire state, not just for Washington County, but Washington County would have benefited immensely. The workload analysis reveals that Washington County needs an additional 2.6 attorneys. Your body approved that 0.6 funding to make a full FTE because the state funded a 0.4 FTE. That's a lot of word salad there for you. But fortunately, the county board did approve that 0.6 funding to make a full 1 FTE. Justice for All would have funded 2.6 district attorneys for Washington County, along with a public defender and some other staff, as well as other district attorneys throughout the state. However, the state Senate did fail, sadly, to take that measure up, even though the assembly had passed that. So what this anti-crime plan C affords is 1 district attorney specific to drug prosecution. And you can see, I won't read you what that job description entails. It's in the committee report, but this assists the district attorney in addressing drug prosecution specifically. Under DA Bratz's leadership, our charging and prosecutions have increased 25% since he took office. That is due in large part through the entire team of public safety. And that leads me directly into dispatch pay. I'm going to skip the sergeant for a second. The dispatch pay, this is of significant concern. Currently, we are still not fully staffed. This ask is for the county board to consider to adjust the pay scale for our dispatchers, as I identified in the Public Safety Committee meeting. Our dispatchers are special people. We are short on staff. It takes a special person to be a dispatcher. You just don't hire a person that says, hey, I think I'd want to be a dispatcher. And they come walking in and you sit them down and put them through 6 months of training, and it just isn't going to work out. I mean, that's hard. Onboarding the right person with the right attitude, with the right heart, with the right mindset to provide that service to the constituency is very, very special. And nothing gets done, like nothing gets done without dispatch. They answer that call. They push that through our law enforcement. They push that to fire. They push that through EMS. And it's all done by dispatch. So this measure is particularly important for your consideration for recruitment, retention, and attraction for that specific job. The police sergeant is also particularly important. We do have some of the statistics that are provided in the committee report that the second shift is our busiest shift, and that would afford more supervision and span of control within that second shift operations. That's critically important as well. We also jump into what is that fiscal note addendum addressing our sheriff administration, is a mouthful for me to say. Sheriff's Administrative Officer 1 and 2. So prior to June 9th of this past year, they were administrative personnel 1 and 2. That's a universal, comprehensive job title throughout the county. The sheriff and his staff decided that the personnel in our front office, public facing, are not administrative 1 and 2. They changed their job title because their job description is far different. They are now sheriff's administrative officers. And a lot of the information that was provided to the executive vacillated around comparing ourselves within that new job description to counties such as Dodge, Fond du Lac, Ozaukee, Sauk, and Waukesha County. And this, I believe that the adjustment has been made is to get us a little bit closer to what their average comparables are. And I believe Mr. Dahl uses those same counties in the comparison, what do we call that thing? Our comp plan, our compensatory plan. So the folks, the people that work in that front office are equally as special. And I don't mean to brag on public safety. Everybody in Washington County is special. Everybody that works and does the efforts in Washington County is extremely valuable. But I lean a little bit towards public safety. And so I apologize to everybody else. But those front office girls are extremely valuable to the work that's being done throughout Washington County. And I appreciate the executive making these efforts in order to make recognition of the valuable work that they do. And lastly, the radio grants. We had funded that radio grant program previously to the tune of $500,000. We exhausted that fund within a year, and it has been sitting empty for the past 9 months. And due to the great efforts of Captain Stacer and Captain Kemps, our radio budget is currently under budget. Could hear a pin drop because that never really happens, does it? It is coming in under budget. So we have been able to use some of those funds to fund the radio grant program for your consideration to the tune of $200,000. So I am happy to answer any additional questions that you may have. And I thank you for your consideration.
Supervisor Newman.
Thank you, Chair. I think Mr. Sager summarized it pretty well. For those of you that were here last budget cycle, you know that we had a lot of discussion about these cuts, very heated, passionate discussion, but unfortunately, things we had to do. I'm glad to see this funding opportunity come to us. I'm glad to see the needs come back to us along with the funding. I think it's important that it's going to address the court security needs and the district attorney needs, and then retain and attract quality employees of the county. And I've said that many times, that the county doesn't run as smooth as it does without the employees here. So I'm really glad to see that. And like you said, the additional funding available from the radio program, that's unheard of. So I'm glad that's going back into a similar radio grant program. So I do support this and hope that the rest of you do as well. Thank you.
Supervisor Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to state for the record that I fully support this plan. I'm all about it. This does rectify our budgeting situation that we did last fall, which is very difficult. We fought good and hard over that, and I did vote against that amendment, but I always believed that this day would come that we would rectify that situation. So I'm very happy to have the opportunity to do that. So, and the reason why I state that is because my next question may make you think that I don't support it, but the fiscal effect. So, Mr. Dahl, I guess what I'm asking is there's a line in here. It poses a challenge to the general fund base as the county approaches the budget reconciliation window. Could you please explain that to us so we can understand that, so that it's something to consider for moving forward beyond this particular item?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for the question. So the new totals, I'll refer you to sort of the amended schedule. The new totals do show a challenge, deficit, however you want to call it, for 26 and 27. 2026, 72,000. That is a challenge. I think these numbers are very conservative. One thing that's not in here is essentially the vacancy savings that are being generated every day at the dispatch center. One dispatcher, the budget for that is around, between 80 and 90,000, for example, and we've got a few of them open for the entire year. Those savings add up. We're not banking on any of that in here. So I believe we can implement these changes for 2026 without this impact that we're seeing here. There are a number of other things in the works revenue-wise that could also help to offset this. Moving into 2027, the deficit of 142 that's shown in here. The resolution references that there will be we called it last time a budget repair. resolution. We're working in maybe some different language, budget reconciliation. So we don't, say that it's broken because it's not. I'm a little passionate about that one too, right? The resolution references the fact that we will be coming to you this fall with sort of a budget reconciliation resolution that will tighten this up and close that $142,000 gap. There's a number of other things in the works to close that. We need a couple more months waiting on those things to materialize, but you will see a plan for closing that gap.
Thank you, Mr. Dahl. So I guess in summary, for those of us who may be new or haven't been through the process before, we do a biennial budget. And so every 2 years, we're going to come up with a full budget. But we also understand that usually after the first year, there are some adjustments that do need to be made because life goes on and things change. So though this resolution kind of makes it sound like we're standing at the precipice, what's the word I'm looking for? The edge of a cliff. We're not. It is something I've been through pretty much every biannual budget that we've been through. We've had to do some repair work in the halfway point. So I fully hope that you support this anti-crime bill. I think it's really good. It covers a lot of the things that we needed to take care of last fall. Thank you.
I really hesitate to throw numbers at our numbers guy. But even we make money back by having a position open, but we spend some of that on extra overtime, correct?
Absolutely, we do. It's not dollar for dollar, but we do, yes.
Okay. And then the other thing was, you recall when we were fighting over the budget last year, there was another detective position that was requested. And maybe Mr. Seeger wants to embellish, but I understand that the sheriff and his staff have chosen that these things are his priorities now, but the detective is still, an ask at some point. Correct?
Yes, the detective is still an ask, and I defer to the sheriff and his priorities most certainly. But yes, the detective is still there for us.
Thank you. Mr. Schwab.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As was pointed out, we talked about this a lot last year, but these needs, especially in the dispatch department, in my opinion, have been ongoing for a long time. And it's, as Mr. Sager pointed out, it is difficult to find dispatchers. So I'm glad that this was brought forward. I think it's important. I think it's important that we support our staff, and I think it is important that we continue for our constituents making public safety a priority. And that's what this does. I'm glad that funds were found to reinstate the radio grant program, but I am concerned that as we reinstitute that program, it may be wise to make some changes to that, because it seems like in the past, a lot of the radio grant program, whatever municipality wanted, we just kind of gave them, right? And when we did radio replacements for employees they already had, that was understandable. But it's my opinion that as we go forward, as individual communities add staff, they should be responsible for those, because it isn't necessarily a radio replacement program as it was in the beginning. So I'm in favor of the resolution, but I do think we need to be careful about that radio grant program to make sure it isn't being, I won't say over abused, I will say, or abused, I will say overused. Thank you.
Am I correct that radio grant program is administered by Mr. Dahl?
That would be me, sir. It was under Mr. Dahl's purview at one time.
Thank you. Supervisor Conrad. Oh, sorry.
All right, thank you, Chair. I greatly appreciate this Crime Plan C coming forward, and all the efforts that must have gone into this. And speaking of dispatch, that's my comment I want to make. I truly hope that this helps fill those positions and it just beyond, say, increasing the salary for those individuals, it is a very high moral distress role. And they have a very high suicide rate nationally. So I just hope too that we are looking at that and services that we provide those individuals and maybe in those, interviews or recruitment for that critical role that we, highlight the support that we have for these individuals.
I really appreciate that comment, Supervisor. We do have a peer support program within the sheriff's office, and Lieutenant Blair is just exceptional. I can't say enough good things about her, and we just promoted another young lady to sergeant. So we're starting to build that out, and the sheriff's office is very well managed. And I would put that out there, out to all our viewers that we are hiring. If you know of anybody, please do so. Washington County is a great place to work and live.
Thank you.
Supervisor Troutner, do you still wish to? Okay. Supervisor Gallitz.
Thank you, Chair. I too support this. However, I just want to make sure I understand the budget impact, as I think was brought up earlier. A 189 hit, I think, is what you said. That's in the resolution.
The original resolution said 189. That's both years added together.
Correct, but if I look at copy of the amendment, it has 2026
New-
and 27 and 72, 250 for 26 and 142 for 2027. That's like 214 or something. So just want to make certain that we understand, or all of us understand, what the true impact is. So if we're going to be looking for a fall budget amendment, such as Supervisor Kelly indicated, what is that amount actually going to be?
Sure. We would be looking to close the structural gap in 27, meaning $142,000.
Okay, that's for 27. 26 is 72.
26,
So
yeah,
combined, it's 214.
correct. 26, obviously, we're in that now. This is a challenge to us to find a way to pay for that 72,000.
So the 72, we're going to try to absorb somehow within all the other departments this year with no amendment to the budget, whereas the amendment for 2027 will have to understand where the 142 is coming from.
That's correct.
Okay. I know we have sizable amount in the opioid settlement, I think unspent 15, 20 million. I don't know. No, sorry, I restate that. Or it's been a while since been in. I retract that statement. So the point is that is a finite amount. And I thought there's also spend time frame when it has to be spent by, because my concern is that if we're using opioid settlement, is it just only in 2026? Is that what I understand? Or would it also be in 2027?
It's scheduled for both years.
What about 28, 29?
That's subject to the next budget.
Okay. Okay. So again, just awareness for everybody, using finite limited dollars for a permanent position, we should all be mindful of that, because we're going to have to solve for that when those opioid dollars run out. I think it's a good use of it. When I was on the Health and Human Services, we were trying to figure out what's the best way to utilize that settlement funds for the constituents of Washington County. And it appears that this is a good use of that. So I don't have an issue with that. It's just that's going to dry up at some point. So how do we account for it? Or are we planning to earmark over the 28 and 29, or potentially then 30-31 budget to get as much as we can out of that opioid settlement? So not sure how long that's going to go and what the budgeting process our departments are considering, but that's just a caution.
Makes sense.
Do you want me to comment on where we stand with the opioid settlement? So we'll be receiving payments through 2038. There is no requirement by which you, what date or time frame in which you spend it. Right now, our projection is we'll receive about 8.7 million with the spend that we've made and some of these things that we're adding in and some future spend that we know that we're going to have with our drug treatment court, we still sit at about 5 million. So we have spent about 3.5 million or have it sort of proposed. So there is still a lot of options of things for us to do. But again, we don't receive that full amount right now. We'll receive a chunk every year through 2038.
Thank you. Supervisor Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Couple questions. First one, it was said that a future position still to be debated would be the detective's position. Is that correct?
Well, that's still on our,
Still on your radar?
yes, sir.
What about the co-responders unit? And isn't one of those positions set to expire or sunset at some
I would
point?
defer to Ms. Driscoll, but yes, it's due to expire, yes. But
So as you may recall in Anti-Crime Plan B, we always anticipated the co-responder team to be three teams of 6 employees. We applied for the innovation grant, or I don't know if it's called an innovation grant, but the additional positions 3 years ago. That expires at the end of this year. We did indicate to this board that we would revisit that to decide if that was a need to continue 4 teams. Based on our collaboration and conversation with the Sheriff's Department and the data that we've looked at, those positions are extremely valuable. They're doing amazing work within our community, but we just don't believe that we need 4 teams at this time.
Okay, so that's not on our short-term radar. Just trying to make, because this anti-crime plan brings so many things that, quite frankly, I think some of these could be debated individually. But they're all rolled into a package, so that I'm a little bit critical of that. I've been critical of the previous anti-crime plans that have been presented to us. I just think some of the stuff they're big enough items by themselves that we should be addressing them individually. So I wanted to see what else was on the radar that was not part of this current plan. So in the future, I would request that we don't have any more anti-crime plans. I think the wording or the name of it is not the best. It's kind of like similar to our broken budget reconciliation. I really don't want to be sitting here listening to future anti-crime plans, D, E, F, and so on. So hopefully we can avoid that. But I do understand and agree with the majority of the reasons and the proposed positions or pay adjustments within the plan. So I definitely, overall, there's more to agree with than not agree with in here. So I would support it. So thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak? There being none, I'll ask for a motion, but before the motion, ask that the friendly amendment for extra money for the administrative people be built in.
Technically, it would be a friendly amendment to substitute in the new exhibit with the updated numbers and the updated funding source. It's just a friendly amendment, so as long as nobody's objecting to the paper being updated and substituted to the current funding source, we wouldn't need a formal motion.
So does anybody object?
Okay.
In that case, I look for a motion. Supervisor Bossert, Supervisor Mary is the second. and we will vote electronically. This also requires a 2/3 vote. It passes unanimously. Thank you all for your work tonight. We thought we might have a campus update for UWMWC, but nothing has materialized, so stay tuned. Our next meeting will be August 12th. This meeting's adjourned.
My daughter's last Facebook.
Oh, that was short. Medium. Thank you for your help.
Good night.